Paul has been building churches. He has been spreading the gospel past the Jewish people and on to the Gentiles, those of different faiths, those of people that have never known the Jewish faith, the Jewish God. And he has spent about 3 years in Ephesus. He's building a church there. And as we've known, we've been talking about how he's had some trials and tribulations there. He's also had some major successes there as well. And he's getting ready to leave. As a matter of fact, he's on his way. He boards a boat and he starts to go along the coast, and he's heading out. And what his goal is that he's actually going to be heading to Jerusalem. And that's a little bit dangerous because Paul's not very popular in Jerusalem. Remember, he was a Christian hunter at the time. And so there's people that in Jerusalem that remember Paul as Saul, the guy that actually put a lot of guys in prison and families, broke a lot of homes, and so he's not very popular there. Some of the even Christian leaders kind of see Paul as this kind of hothead. He's the one that kind of pushed the envelope as far as we need to expand this to the Gentiles, and if we do that, they don't have to follow the Jewish faith and all of this kind of stuff. So before he leaves Ephesus, he says, okay, I'm gonna park over there, park the boat over there, and I want the elders to come. I want the church founders to come, and I just want to give one last talk to them. You can tell that this is, for Paul, this is kind of a sad time for him, because I think that he really fell in love with a lot of the people there, and made a lot of changes, saw a lot of God moments there. And now he's leaving them. And he's also a control freak, so he's leaving the church in the hands of these guys that he's discipled to. And so he calls these people together. And he said, you know who I am by what you've seen. You know that I'm the type of person that I am. You know by the way that I have lived, you've known what a Christian is. I have worked my own way through. I have not been a person that has taken handouts without cause. I have supported my own self. I have preached by the path that I walk. I have shown that it is better to give to receive. I've shown that I love my neighbor as myself. I've shown you exactly who I am. I've shown you that I'm a person of faith, so much so that faith is calling me to go to Jerusalem, where I know that it's going to actually be, I've been warned many times that I'm facing hard times. I know that my future in discipleship and church planting is going to lead down a road of very, very difficult times. I've been beaten, I've been jailed, and it's going to continue as I go this way. But you know the reason why I'm going, because of the person that you know that I am. In other words, I've shown you my honest self. For 3 years, I've shown you my honest self. I've shown you when I have been happy. I've shown you when I've been angry. I've shown you when I've been sad. I've shown you everything that I am. Do the same for them. What Paul, in his last final words to this community, have shown people is that the most important way to disciple to anybody is to show them who you are. If you want to show someone what a disciple is, show them a disciple. Show them who you are. It's not by the, last week we talked about, he gave this really, really long sermon that caused a guy to fall asleep and fall out the window. It wasn't about the words. He had preached the words. You could come into a community and within the first hour, I can tell you the story of Jesus, done. We're done. But to show you how to live like Christ, to show you how to live like a Christian, that's going to take some time. And it's going to take more than words. It's going to take you watching me. Not me necessarily. I'm talking about when we talk to people that we're discipling too. Because if you watch just me, my honest self, well, here you go. That's a list of my sins. And I had to put it in a font large enough so people could read, and so there's plenty more of them, but I didn't want to just bore you with so many slides. But that's me. And take a time to ingest it if you want to, but I own everything that's on that list. Throughout my life, I have done every one of those things. And guess what? Some of them recently. Some of them I probably do tomorrow because I'm a sinner and I'm a person that doesn't live a perfect life. And that's who I am. And when I first became a pastor, that plagued me very much. When I first became even a follower of Christ, this plagued me very much. Because, well, this is huge. This is mammoth. This is a lot of stuff. How could I ever be a person that could even forget starting a church, forget preaching, forget being a pastor? How could I even be loved by God because of all of this? On a good day, my sins still outnumber my good deeds. If I'm talking about just earning what I have, well, I've spent a lot of years building this list up to a pretty mammoth size, and it's going to take some time for me to build up a counter list of good. At least that's what I thought when I became a pastor. But that's it. That's my honest self. How many people are willing to just post that up there? I'm not saying that what I'm doing here is noble or anything like that. I'm saying that as a Christian, as a disciple of Christ, part of the things that I need to do to preach here is to show you my honest self. And that's my baggage right there. That's it. Notice I'm not giving you any details. It's liberating. Very good. And it's a thing that brings us a little bit closer, because I'm just guessing, but I'm thinking that some folks are looking at some of those things on the list and saying, I've done that too. I think it was C.S. Lewis. One of my favorite quotes of C.S. Lewis is, two strangers become friends when they say to one another, oh, you have sinned as well, or something like that. I can't remember. I misquote people all the time. So, yeah, I attributed love your neighbor to Hercules for many years, so that shows just how much I know. But our honest self. When I was, okay, you guys have looked at that enough. When I was in high school, I had my life all planned out. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I knew how I was going to live. I knew that by, I was into comedy. I was wanting to be a comedian. And I knew that my goal was that I was going to, after graduation, I was going to move to Chicago. And I was going to join an improv group there known as Second City. It's where a lot of folks like from Saturday Night Live and things like that come from. Steve Carell from The Office came there. Not only came there, but he taught there. They teach improv, and then the improv students, they put on a show, and you learn about comedy and improv and all that stuff. It's where like Bill Murray came from, and John Belushi and all those guys. And I was going to be one of those guys. And so I knew that by the time that I was 30, 35 at the most, I was going to be famous, and I was going to be making a living on doing comedy. Since then, 35 has passed quite a few years ago. I have visited Chicago twice. I've gone to Second City twice. The closest I've gone to fame is I met Jerry Seinfeld. I said to him, Jerry, how about a picture? You know what he said to me? No, thanks. So that's my run-in with fame right there. Some of the things that we plan out for our lives don't always end up the way that we thought it was supposed to be. As a matter of fact, I'm guessing, just like the list of sins out there, that everyone is in this room had something that they thought they were going to be or should be or wanted to be, and maybe the plans have steered to a different direction. They did for Paul. You see, he grew up to be this scholar of a religious figure. He was very, very learned in the Jewish faith. So much so that he became self-righteous, and so much so that when he saw these people that were rebelling against this Jewish faith, he witnessed them killing somebody and didn't even blink because that's the right thing to do. It's what they should be doing. Stoning is what they should be doing. And suddenly on a road to Damascus, he was blinded. And he saw Jesus Christ. And Jesus said, Paul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? In other words, why are you taking this road that you think that you're supposed to be on instead of choosing the road that I've chosen for you? And we all know that this is the same person that is talking to the Ephesians right now, telling them the best way to preach is to do what I do, be who I am. You've seen me, you know me, go and do likewise. Now, if Paul had this change of heart, but yet he still had this baggage, his list included things that I don't have on my list. I've not murdered anybody yet. I say yet because the day is new. I don't know what's going to happen. I have to go to the DMV sometime this month, and it could happen. So, but he had things like hunting humans, persecuting, splitting up families, jailing people. There were people, like I've said this before, by the time that Paul was starting and talking to the Ephesians, there were people that had still had sufferings, whether it would be incarceration, death, separation from the things that he was persecuting. There were people still in prison from the times that he was arresting Christians. Remember, Christianity had not been, it's going to be another 100 years before it's actually fully accepted. This is something that Paul is still active in. And so his heart's changed, but his repercussions, the consequences of his sins are still being felt, and he has people that are still hurt. So how could he be this person that not only is preaching, but has said, you know who I am, be who I am? I have a lot in common with Paul, because I constantly ask myself, how in the world could I be up here? Because I know who I am, and you know who I am. I think the most that I could say is the same thing that Paul said. You've seen what I am. You've seen what I do. You've seen how I live my life. You've seen my honest self. What the best gift that I can give you is the gift of my honest self. And it was then when I realized that by doing that, then even the things that were on that list, I can actually use to help people. You've fallen, I've fallen. You've made mistakes, I've made mistakes. You're not holier than thou, neither am I. You know what it's like to actually hurt another human being, so do I. But I do know that there was something that changed my life. There was a blinding moment for me that caused me to realize that God is love. And see, the thing that God wants is not when God comes into our lives, yet we are always evolving. Every one of us is always evolving. I'm a firm believer that you should be always trying to better yourself until the day you die. We should always be achieving, because once we start thinking, I'm just exactly the way that I should be, I don't have to change anything, I don't have to learn anything, then we stop growing. And so we're constantly doing that to the day we die. So yeah, we are always changing. Paul did stop doing some of the bad things and destructive things that Paul did is the same as I have. I've stopped living certain things in my life, and I've started to be more Christ-like, I guess you would say. But the thing that we have to realize is that Christ, when he grabs us, when he reaches out to us, he's not telling us, okay, I'm going to stand over here. You've got all this stuff to change, and all those things that you said you were going to be, you got to meet those things because my love is conditional, and then I'll meet you over here. No, Paul, usually what God's doing is he knocks us on his butt, and he says, you know what, exactly how you are, the same person that you are right now is the person that I love. And that not only is it the person I love, it's the person I'm celebrating. And not only is it the person I'm celebrating, but it's the person I gave my life for. because you are exactly the way you want me to be. And what he's asking us to do is show people that. When we try to present ourselves as the perfect individual, I can't even button this. It's a new jacket. Do I look perfect now? Straight and everything? I got the touch of gray going on. Does it look good? Represent myself as a perfect human being, right? And now I walk the world and I'm a perfect pastor. Perfect pastors walk like this. They do. And now what I do is I admit no faults. I am a holy man. I am touched by God, and I have touched him back. And suddenly what happens there is now I am unreachable because I think I'm a pompous person. Not only am I unreachable by those that feel like he's someone I can't touch because he's better than I am, but for others, I'm also like that person that's told everyone that the business could not survive without him and then cut in front of everybody in the parking lot. I am a hypocrite because my honest self shows through. You see, we can say all kinds of stuff. I can say, yeah, you're a great person. But if I'm going back here and saying, he's not such a great person, I'm not really being very sincere. I'm not being very honest. And I'm not being very honest to you. And I can maybe pull that off for a little while, but eventually my true self is going to show through. None of us are that good of actors. I don't see a Tom Hanks here at all, who's brilliant, by the way. But if I start out, when you meet me, transparent and showing my honest self, then not only do you get to see exactly who I am, you get to see me on level ground, but I also get to know that the person that you're accepting is my honest self. And if you're accepting that, then you're being honest too. If I show you who I am and you don't like it, then we know that right away. When Allison and I got married, I made her. I have this thing, this Mexican meal that I make. It's called a Rookarito. That's what I make. Because my name's Rook. My last name's Rook. And my middle name's Rito. So it just makes so much sense. It's like this deluxe burrito thing that I cook in the oven. It's a bachelor burrito is really what it is. I think it's really something, but it's not. You open the can here and you assemble it and then it goes into the thing. But the first time I shared that with her, I said, now tell me what you think of it. She said, I love it. It's great. I said, no, seriously, tell me what you think of it, because if you say it's great now, remember, I'm going to think that you think it's great, and I'm going to be serving this once a week for the rest of your life. And she said, it's not bad. We can do that in our relationships with one another. If I start to put on a facade the minute that you and I meet, then I have to try my best to wear that facade the rest of our friendship, if we have a friendship. If I try to do this even as a pastor, oh man, our church is screwed because I got to be a phony every Sunday. But if I'm my honest self from the very beginning, then you know who I am, I know who you are, and if you accept that from me and I accept that from you, that is a relationship and a friendship that has started out with sincerity and honesty right from the start. And as we know, every one of us here, even you, know that honesty and truth last longer than lies do. But we also have to realize the main thing is that it's not just the fact that if we're our honest self, it's just easier. We have to realize that our honest self is what God created in us. He didn't create us to be part of a herd and stand in line and look and talk exactly like somebody else. And if we don't, then we need to, get a censure and we need to get a hairpiece and we need to so we look like everybody else. He created every one of us as individuals, as unique pieces in this whole big world of ours. Unique pieces that have their own unique ripple effects and their own lives that they've touched, even with the sins that we've had. Those things that he has given us are unique abilities to show a part of him. And those unique things that we are, the things that make us lovable and even the things that make us loathable, are the things that God created and loves. So many times we go out there and we try to be this other person. I have to be polite. I have to say what I don't feel. I have to say this and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, there's being polite. You can't just go to a wedding and say, "Man, you look fat." It's not going to really fly very well. But you can tell somebody, "I don't like the Rookerito." She does, by the way. That's why we got married. But we can go into our world and say, "This is me. This is who I am. This is my honest self. Ask me a question, you're going to get an honest answer. This is how I feel about the world." And then we might discover that maybe our politics don't match. Or maybe some of the choices in our life have been different. Or maybe I like to go left here and you like to go right. But we also find a commonality is that we can still actually love each other. See, my goal for this church is that we have people on opposing sides and no one's villainized because we're actually loving our neighbor, which is part of the thing right there. That's why we wrote that down in ink, is because that's really something that we want to live by. But in order to love our neighbor, we still have to love ourselves, our honest self. If we're constantly going outside thinking, "That's what I should be, this is the person that I was supposed to be, I need to be more like that person, this is not the person that I want to be," the harder it is for us to love ourselves, and then we can't love our neighbor. And then we are neglecting the fact that that person that we think is so rotten is the same person that God loves with all of his heart. Once we understand that, once we truly get that the person that you woke up to be today, before you did your hair up and you got a shower and you know, when you get up in the morning, you just smell like filth, because of your breath is just nasty and birds are leaving the house because birds leave the house. They come in at night. I don't know what I'm saying. This is ad lib. So birds are leaving the house. If you got breath that a bird would come in and then leave, that's a bad breath. Smells foul. Get it? Because birds are foul. Thank you. See it full circle there. When you wake up in the morning and before you ever even look in the mirror and say, "Oh," you know that God has seen you and said, "I love that person. I love that person exactly how they are. That's the thing I created. That's the thing I'm walking with every day. That's the thing I love. That's the thing I cherish. That's the thing I adore. That's the thing that I died for." When we can wake up and know that, then we can take that honest self. You still want to clean up a little bit, but you can go outside and you can share that with God, and then share that with the world, and then share that with your neighbor. And then if we start developing that, if we start liking ourselves that much, guess what? It's easier to do this and say, "You're not perfect, neither am I. What a great world this is. You got some jagged edges, I got some jagged edges. Together, the puzzle pieces put together." Isn't that wonderful that we create a community and a world of imperfections that together come into a family of Christ? I guess the lesson here is just to be yourself. Because yourself is just as God wanted you to be. And then they will know you are Christians by your love and by your honesty.